You've probably spent more time scrolling through endless specs than you'd like to admit, hoping to find a wine fridge that actually fits into the rhythm of your life. You want something that keeps your bottles at the right temperature, doesn't scream for attention every time it cycles, and feels worth the money the moment you open the door. The reality is most people end up with a unit that either looks great on the kitchen counter, but can't hold enough bottles for a small gathering, or a massive walk-in that eats up space and power without delivering that quiet, steady chill you need for Friday night glass. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's the dilemma I ran into when I started hunting for a dual-zone wine cooler. I'm not a sommelier, but I do like to keep a few reds at cellar temperature and a handful of whites a few degrees colder, all within arm's reach of my living room. My first thought was to grab the biggest capacity I could find and hope the rest would fall into place. After a couple of evenings digging through user forums, watching unboxing videos, and comparing the price tags, the VEVOR 24 inches dual-zone model kept popping up as a decent middle ground. It promises 64 standard wine bottles in the red zone and 20 bottles, or even a few small spirits, in the white zone, all behind a glass door that lets you admire your collection without opening it. The key question, though, is whether those numbers translate into actual everyday convenience, or if you end up juggling bottles around each time you want a different vintage. Let's start with the layout. The cooler is built to sit either freestanding on the floor or be mounted under a countertop, which is a rare flexibility you don't see on many other brands. In my apartment kitchen, the freestanding option felt natural. The unit slides cleanly along the back wall, and the glass doors open outward, giving you a clear view of the shelves without having to pull anything out. The adjustable shelves themselves are aluminum racks that slide in and out with a gentle tug. I found that, because the shelves are not fixed, you can accommodate larger bottles. Think of those awkward Bordeaux bottles that are taller than the average 750 milliliters, by simply lowering a shelf a notch. The whole thing feels like a mini cellar that you can reconfigure on the fly, which is a real win if you're the type that buys a new case every few months and want to keep the newer vintages at the front. Temperature control is where the VEVOR tries to set itself apart. The digital panel lets you set the red zone anywhere from 45°F to 65°F, and the white zone from 35°F to 55°F. In practice, I experimented with a few different settings. When I dialed the red zone to 55°F and the white zone to 45°F, both zones stayed steady within a degree or two for days, even after I opened the door several times during a dinner party. The key factor is the low noise compressor. Most times you can barely hear it, and when it does cycle you'll hear a soft thump, not the metallic grind you sometimes get with cheaper models. This is perfect for a living room setup, where you don't want the hum of the fridge competing with conversation or a playlist. If you've ever placed a wine cooler next to a home theater system and heard the compressor drown out dialogue, you'll appreciate this quiet operation. Now, what about the practical downsides? The first thing many people overlook is the energy draw. Dual-zone units naturally consume more power than a single-zone cooler because each compartment runs its own thermostat and compressor cycle. The VEVOR's rating puts it in the mid-range, so you won't see a dramatic spike on your electricity bill, but you should be aware that running two zones 24/7 will be more costly than a single-zone model. Another subtle drawback is the glass doors. They look sleek, but they also mean the interior is exposed to ambient light every time you open them. In a bright kitchen, that can lead to a slight temperature wobble the first few minutes after opening, which is why I recommend keeping the cooler in a spot where it's not directly under a sunny window. Finally, the interior lighting is a simple LED strip that, while functional, doesn't glow as evenly as higher-priced models. If you're keen on a perfect showcase for a collection of bottles with labels you want to read clearly, you might find the lighting a bit dim. Who should consider this cooler? If you're a casual wine enthusiast who enjoys having a rotating selection of reds and whites within arm's reach, the VEVOR offers enough capacity to support a modest yet varied collection without forcing you to choose between the two. It also makes sense for small-scale entertaining. I've used it to store a case of Pinot Noirs for a friend's birthday, and a handful of chilled Ross for a weekend barbecue, all without having to rearrange the shelves between events.